What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at the Open Great League once again, and the team we're going to take a look at today is Empoleon, Amoonguss, and Altaria. Now, you have seen this team on this channel before if you've been here for a little bit, and that's because every single time the Open Great League has come back around, I've run this team, and for good reason. This team just helped me hit legend rank for this season of the Open Great League. I'm very excited about it. I had a huge run live on stream, and you're going to see a lot of that run and then me achieving legend all in this video today. Before we hop into the battles, I do want to just kind of explain the team real quick. So if you're not interested in this, you can skip ahead. But basically, you got Empoleon on the lead, which has 3 weaknesses: Electric, Fighting, and Ground. So you're covering those with Amoonguss and Altaria on the back. And you look at the resistances on Amoonguss and Altaria. You've got Grass, Electric, Fairy, Fighting, and Water on Amoonguss, and Grass, Ground, Bug, Fighting, Fire, and Water. These are all things, or some of those are things that Empoleon has difficulty with, and the other weaknesses are usually neutralized on those 2 other Pokemons. And then obviously you can look at the resistance on Empoleon. It pretty much covers the weaknesses of both Amoonguss and Altaria perfectly, actually. So just something to consider. And then why did I look at Amoonguss when it's like rank 122 in the Open Great League? And this is the reason right here. Let's take a look at the top 9 ranked Pokemon in the Open Great League. You've got Corsola. So you've got Astonish and Foul Play for Corsola, Cradily, which is an entirely neutral matchup, Gastrodon, where you have double super effective Grass Knot as a grass type. You have Azumarill, where you resist Bubble as a grass type and have super effective Grass Knot, and you resist Poliwrath. Marowak, which is a ground, you have Grass Knot. Dusclops, Astonish and Foul Play. Stunfisk, you're a grass with Grass Knot. Marowak once again, and then Shadow Dust Noir. Same thing with the Astonish and Foul Play. So this is the reason I wanted to take a look at this Pokemon. It also pairs really well with the Empoleon Altaria core. So now that I've kind of explained the team, let's hop into some battles. Like I said, these battles were done live on stream, so the quality is a little bit lower, but into the first match, we've got Empoleon into Clodsire. So this is a good matchup, and the opponent is staying in. They try and go for a Hydro Cannon catch, but they do it after 5 Poison Stings when they come in with the Feraligatr. So now, I'm just going to stay in this matchup, because Empoleon will always be able to outpace the Feraligatr, because switching takes a turn. So throwing right away actually works out really nicely for me. The opponent ends up letting that go. We won CMP, and I believe they're in Metal Sound Farm down range, so I'm actually just going to let the Hydro go. It is resisted damage, and look for the full farm down. If the Clodsire comes back in, they're pretty much going to have to throw it away, but I will be able to outpace. So instead, they might show me their third. Their third ends up being a Meowscarada, very cool pick from my opponent. But unfortunately for Meowscarada, here comes a super effective Drill Peck. They do put up a shield and they do get the farm down, but Leafage and Frenzy Plant are double resisted on Altaria. So in comes the Altaria. We have 2 charge moves that are super effective against this Pokemon as well. We basically just have to watch for a catch here. The opponent ends up going for it, and now we have Clodsire against the Amoonguss. The reason I aligned the Altaria against the Meowscarada and the Amoonguss against the Clodsire is simply because the Clodsire could have Stone Edge. They hadn't shown me a charge move yet, and because Astonish and Foul Play are resisted on the Meowscarada. So between those 2 reasons, I think it made sense to come in with the Altaria. That said, now we have a very neutral matchup between Amoonguss and Clodsire going on here. In the 1 shield scenario, the opponent will be able to outpace, but they will need an Earthquake in order to knock me out. I do not believe a Sludge Bomb KOs from this range. It does not. We live on 1 HP, so just going to undertap the move. The opponent makes a pretty nice catch on a Meowscarada, but it's too little too late. They have 2 charge moves basically here, but I know I can live 1 Night Slash, and I will let the first one go in case my opponent does get the boost. So just gonna let the first Night Slash go. Once I throw the second, I will shield that up, knowing that the Clodsire does not have a charge move. So just going to put up the shield, look for the full farm down, come out with a Sky Attack loaded for the Clodsire, and we should be able to take an easy Game 1 win. Back in comes the Clodsire. Now here comes the Sky Attack. They are low enough where a Sky Attack should be enough to knock out the Clodsire, and we are able to take that win. Another thing is I chose the non-Shadow Empoleon because I really wanted its typing to shine through, and the only way it does that is if it can take some hits, because otherwise what's the point of having a good typing Pokemon if it can't take charge moves anyways that are resisted. But into the next match, we've got a Venusaur, which is a pretty good lead. The opponent ends up safe switching into a Dunsparce, and I don't have a great response to Dunsparce in the back, as Amoonguss is an Astonish user, and Altaria takes super effective from both Rollout and Rock Slide. So But the opponent overfarms, allowing me to get to 2 Hydro Cannons. I end up grabbing a shield, so now I'm more than comfortable with coming in Amoonguss, because Amoonguss can absorb 2 drill runs no problem, and as long as the switch timer isn't quite up for my opponent, I will be in a pretty good position. I can now look to pick up the knockout with the Grass Knot before the opponent is able to make it to a 3rd drill run, and Grass Knot from this range does pick up the knockout. Back in comes the Venusaur, but Venusaur their fast move is double resisted here. They're going to have to go for a Sludge in order to pick up the knockout, and that's exactly what my opponent is going to do. Sludge is neutral, it picks up the knockout, but they have 1 residual, so instead of coming in with the Empoleon, I'm going to come in with Altaria, knowing that Vine Whip and Frenzy Plant are double resisted here, forcing my opponent to go for Sludges, and 2 Sludges are not enough to knock out. The opponent ends up going for a catch onto a Stunfisk in the back, and Stunfisk is a somewhat tricky Pokemon for this team, but with a shield advantage, this game is pretty much over. I can throw the Hydro Cannon on the Stampy, but my opponent decides to overfarm. Hydro Cannon does end up connecting, but they end up overfarming by a little bit too much. I would have just let my Empoleon go and just farm down with the Altaria, but grabbing this final shield is super nice. The opponent ended up throwing on the Stampy as well, so definitely just gonna let this go. Mud Bomb does connect, it picks up the knockout, but now here comes a Flamethrower. This is neutral damage, it'll easily knock out the Stunfisk from this range, and now all we have to do is make it to a Sky Attack before the opponent can make it to 3 Sludges, and the opponent will resign the match. Picking up a difficult opponent into the next match, we've got Empoleon into a shiny Murkrow. So a very cool pick from my opponent, but they're staying in this matchup where Peck and Drill Peck are both resisted, forcing my opponent to go for foul plays. They do of course win CMP in this matchup, but foul play is not enough to knock out, so I will just let that go. And even in a 2-shield scenario, I don't think they can fully Peck farm me down, but it looks like we might end up finding out because my opponent is staying in this matchup. Now I'm definitely just going to match shield with my opponent, put up a shield for the next foul play, and go for a 2nd Hydro Cannon. The reason I'm spamming out Hydro Cannons here is because if my opponent were to go for a catch on anything, it would probably be a ground in the back behind a Murkrow, and Empoleon would hit super effective with the Hydro Cannon on the ground. So even if we were to anticipate a catch, I think Hydro Cannon would be the better move to go for. That said, the opponent just wanted to play out the 2s, soft lose it, come in with a Tinkaton in the back, and now in comes the Amoonguss. Amoonguss is of course completely walled here, but so is my opponent. They can only go for neutral Bulldozes because Poliwrath is resisted. They end up full sending a Poliwrath here that is resisted, but now I can start spamming out these Grass Knots. This is stab damage. It'll still do some okay chip even though it is resisted. Grass Knot's a pretty good move, and with the Astonishes it's really going to add up, and in the back is Cradily, so now in comes Altaria. Unfortunately, I will be outpaced here because the opponent did switch first. However, that's okay because Altaria is extremely bulky. We can live a Rock Tomb pretty much no problem, and now we can look to connect with a Sky Attack after quite a bit of overfarm. The question is the opponent just going to take a 2nd Sky Attack and farm up to back-to-back moves? And it looks like yes, that is exactly what they're going to do, and that could put me in a very tricky situation because with my debuff, with my attack lowered on the Amoonguss, I'm not sure a Grass Knot will be enough to knock out, and if I need 2 moves, this game is over. They go for the Rock Tomb, they have another one, but instead they pivot out into the Tinkaton, and now suddenly I see a win con. 1 Bulldoze, not enough to knock out, and actually we could survive a 2nd Bulldoze, so I'm going to let them get to a 2nd charge move here, farm up to the back-to-back foul plays, and I believe we do win CMP against the Cradily. So even though they get that defense fall, we're going to now connect with foul play number 1, that picks up the knockout on the Tinkaton, coming out with foul play number 2, ready to go on the Cradily, and we do win CMP in this matchup. Foul play picks up the knockout on the Cradily, and we are able to take that win. Into the next match, we've got Empoleon into Dugong, so pretty good lead. Obviously, Ice Shards are double resisted here, but the opponent is staying in. Of course, Drill Run is super effective, but Drill Run is not enough to knock out, and I'm not really threatened by a farm down because their fast move is double resisted. So I can definitely let this go. It is super effective, but we can live this, and this is what I mean about having the non-shadow. Having the shadow would be at risk of being knocked out by the following Ice Shards. Here comes a Drill Peck number 2, and if they go for Drill Run right away, I'm going to go for a catch on Altaria. Now that is an extremely risky play because they have double super effective Icy Wind, but we do get the Drill Run catch on the Altaria where it is double resisted, which is absolutely fantastic. But they actually have another Pokemon with ice coverage in the back. Very strange team for my opponent so far. Already ABA weak to Rock and Electric. But that is okay. I'm going to put up a shield, hoping that I can get this opponent into Astonished farm down range with for the Amoonguss later in this match. Sky Attack number 2 does connect the opponent, does let that go, and now they will look to pick up the knockout after a little bit of overfarm with Icy Wind number 2, but at this point they are in Astonish farm down range, so I will let that go. And now in comes Amoonguss. We get the Astonish farm down. What is that final Pokemon in the back? It is a Poliwrath, so my opponent is triple weak to Electric. They try and go for the catch onto the Dugong. They do not get it, so the opponent resigns the match, and we are able to take that win. Into the next match, Mightyena on the lead. So maybe this is the home slice Henry team. We're going to have to see. But the opponent can only get to a double resisted Poison Fang at the same time that we get to the Hydro Cannon. So definitely just going to start spamming out these charge moves. Of course, these fast moves from the Mightyena are really adding up. So even if they go for a bait here, I'm going to have to put up a shield. They do full send the crunch, but that is okay. I can now make it to Hydro Cannon number 2. Probably going to grab the second shield for my opponent. They want to just force alignment here, and I can't really come in with Amoonguss, so I'm forced to stay in, let them get the full farm down, and come in with Altaria. Altaria can absorb this energy pretty well. They will go for the Poison Fang, lowering my defense, probably before connecting with a second charge move, and this crunch will do big damage, so I'm actually going to put up a shield on the Altaria, and now they force alignment and got us into the zero shield scenario after eliminating 1.5 of my Pokemon, so going to be in a very difficult position. In comes a Wigglytuff, but in comes Amoonguss, and Amoonguss actually going to outpace the opponent as they stay in, recognizing that Astonish is resisted, but now we can connect with a neutral Grass Knot that does big damage to the Wiggly, and now they will be able to connect with a super effective Icy Wind. Maybe they're weak to the Amoonguss in the back. That can only be my hope. Just gotta watch for a catch here. They do end up going for the catch, but they catch on a Gastrodon. This is double super effective, so I don't want to fully charge it. Even with the grass, even with the Icy Wind, it would do too much damage. We get the perfect undercharge, a simultaneous KO, and we have the Sky Attack loaded and ready to go before the opponent can get to another Icy Wind. Sky Attack picks up the knockout on the Wigglytuff, and Altaria is a Wigglytuff counter confirmed. Into next match, picking up a difficult lead, Empoleon into Gastrodon, gonna safe switch into Amoonguss, and we lure out a Drifblim. They saw the grass poison typing and maybe weren't expecting to see an Amoonguss, and now we have a fantastic matchup here because not only do we outpace the opponent, but we're hitting for super effective damage with Astonish and Foul Play, which puts the opponent in a really difficult situation. We can always overfarm in this matchup as well, just because we have better pacing. We're straight 4, whereas they are 5-4 pacing. So here comes Foul Play number 2, grabbing the second shield for my opponent. You already know I'm double shielding as well and looking to flip switch. At this point, I think I can also go for the full Astonish farm down. It's going to be close. Can we get it? Yes, we can, but for some reason I make a mistake. I end up throwing energy here, but that's okay. It's still going to pick up the knockout, and we have flip switch. It's just about what is in the back. It would have been nice to connect with a Foul Play against this Scizor, but now we can just align our Altaria against the Gastrodon and our Empoleon against the Scizor, and this is basically a 1 game because all we have to do is connect with the Sky Attack, and after you land the Sky Attack with the Altaria, you can actually fully Dragon Breath farm down the Gastrodon in this zero shield scenario, which is absolutely incredible. They will get you very low, but you will come out with a charge move loaded, which is honestly ideal because we need a double super effective flamethrower for when that Scizor comes back in. They will throw another charge move here and maybe look to snipe with a Bullet Punch, but I know I can live the Body Slam no problem, and if they come back with a Scizor, now here comes a double super effective flamethrower. They did not have the charge move locked and loaded. That picks up the knockout. Back in comes the Gastrodon. They're getting Dragon Breath farm down, and we are able to take that win. Into next match, picking up another good lead, we've got Empoleon into Cradily, and the Cradily is staying in this matchup. Something is severely wrong for my opponent's team. I tried to not throw on the CMP tie so that my opponent wouldn't expect one to catch, but they ended up catching one before, which is when I ended up throwing, but they caught on a Dusclops. Now this is pretty okay for the Amoonguss because Amoonguss can live one Ice Punch here, and then I can just look to connect with the Foul Play on the CMP tie with their next Ice Punch, now that they're in the red from Astonishes alone, well, plus the Hydro Cannon, of course, but Foul Play from this range, easily going to be enough to knock out the opponent. Back in comes the Cradily. They did have enough for the charge move to go for 1 in the move, but I figured if they wanted to throw their energy right away, then they're going to be energy dry, so the Empoleon will have a fantastic matchup there. So that's why I went for 1 in the move, going for good timing. Ended up getting a charge move off on the opponent, and now they will be able to connect with a Rock Tomb. The fact that they stayed in with the Cradily makes me think that they're weak to the Empoleon in the back, so I will actually put up a shield for the Grass Knot here, but no, I was completely wrong. It's a Primeape in the back. I have no idea why they stayed in that lead matchup for as long as they did, taking all those super effective metal sounds, but they will be able to connect with a Rage Fist. That's not enough to knock out. I'm going to let Rage Fist number 2 go as well. The non-shadows typically aren't running Ice Punch, so that's why I'm letting these go, and I can live quite a few of them. Now here comes Sky Attack number 1. This will simply one-shot the opponent, so they will end up putting up a shield. They do have 2 shields left in play, so I need to grab at least 2 shields, so that way I can connect with a Drill Peck to knock out the Primeape. Otherwise, my opponent will be able to Rage Fish completely through my team. I watch for the catch. They end up going for it, but I hold on to my energy when I get there, leaving with a Drill Peck loaded, so the opponent resigns the match, and we are able to take that win. Into the next match, picking up a fantastic lead, Empoleon into Alolan Ninetales. The opponent safe switches into a Blastoise, and my opponent is completely core broken by an Empoleon lead. However, I really need my Empoleon on that Ninetales, so I'm going to connect with a Drill Peck, and then in comes Amoonguss. They could have double super effective Ice Beam on the Altaria, so single super effective Ice Beam would be a lot better on the Amoonguss, and this is where I learned that Amoonguss actually loses CMP to the Blastoise. Blastoise having a higher attack, maybe that's IV dependent, but I'm not sure. That said, I can live a Hydro Cannon from that range, so I do let it go. Could be a mistake because now the opponent might flip switch here, but I see a win con, because what I can do is I can grab a second shield from my opponent, and with a 2-0 shield scenario, Altaria can actually do okay there with a super effective Flamethrower. So instead of getting the farm down with Empoleon, which resists all of the charge moves, I'm instead going to come in with the Altaria and get an energy lead, so that hopefully I can get to a Flamethrower later in the game. Back in comes the Alolan Ninetales, and in the back is a Stunfisk. So we've seen this core before. The Alolan Ninetales Stunfisk core actually featured on this channel. But unfortunately for the opponent, because they were slow on the switch, Empoleon is going to be able to outpace, which means this game is simply over. My opponent knows it, so they resign the match, and we are able to take that win. Fellow content creator, in the next match, we've got Dan Ottawa picking up a good lead for Empoleon. Bullet punches are double resisted. He's going to safe switch into a Corsola, and now in comes Amoonguss. And this is exactly what I was talking about. Amoonguss doing so well against these ghosts running completely free, and having that grass coverage is super nice for all of the meta relevant waters. I will end up letting one Nightshade go through, and now look to connect with a Foul Play on the CMP tide with their next Nightshade. Foul Play not quite enough to knock out actually, and because I was slow on the switch, I'm going to be forced to put up a shield here. However, I think this play was wrong, because they're definitely going to have an Azumarill in the back. We've seen this team before. I've showcased it on my channel in Top Teams video just with Fortress on the lead. The Fortress, Corsola, Azumarill line is very common, so having a Scizor on the lead also makes a lot of sense. And now I'm taking damage on the Empoleon, which is not a good play, but now here comes the Azumarill. So now I'm forced to stay in this matchup. I just basically needed to save shields for the Empoleon is what I'm saying. It didn't really matter whether I hit switch or not, because Empoleon basically needs to 2v1 the Scizor plus the Azu, or I needed to just align the Empoleon on the Azu. Of course, he doesn't know I have that Altaria yet in the back, but one Flamethrower is double super effective damage on the Scizor, so it will easily knock them out, and I think we can absorb 2 Night Slashes on the Altaria. But gonna put a shield on the Poliwrath, gonna be able to connect with another Drill Peck. Now back in comes the Scizor. They can't get the farm down because it's double resisted. Now finally gonna grab that shield with a Hydro Cannon, and in comes Altaria. They are pretty close to a charge move on the Azumarill, but I know I can live a Night Slash here. I can then pick up the knockout with a Sky Attack, because Sky Attack is neutral. And then I'm hoping I can get to another Sky Attack before the opponent gets to another charge move. But even if I cannot, it's going to be okay, because these Dragon Breaths are going to put the Azumarill at 1 HP, and then it's a fast move race. Metal Sound versus Bubble. Metal Sound is neutral, Bubble is resisted, and we have a 2-turn versus a 3-turn, which means we get the farm down, and we are able to take that win. That's me claiming the 5-0 set. This was later on after I played with this team, claiming the Legend rank all the way up to 30-17. With a 5-0. But yeah, honestly, Amoonguss was so good to me, and that's what I love about Pokemon Go, is finding that Pokemon that just core breaks the entire top meta, pairing it with some meta mons where it makes sense on a safe swap, and you've got a really solid team. But yeah, That's going to be it for me from this video. Before I wrap up the video though, I do want to say thank you to the expert trainer members on this channel: Benny Hemlock, Dr. Mustache, Sohan Patil, Eliana, Perry G, Blue Nation, Peter Rushworth, Alright 504, Chompus Clips, and Sons of Code, as well as an extra special thank you to the legend trainer members on this channel: Andrew Pitton, Moosechute, Noodleman, Speedster, Estros, Fast Eddie Boss, and C. Slaskos. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace!